All the slides presented here belongs to their respective owner. I or the channel does not claim any rights over them. Hello everyone, I am Shahan Laik. I am third year MBBS student and today I will discuss about a very important topic about myasthenia gravis. Now this is a very important topic and this video is a combination video where I will directly correlate between different subjects like medicine and also the pharmacology and what is the pathogenesis, what is the pathophysiology, how does this disease is occurring, and I will detailsly discuss about all of this. So guys, if you like our video, make a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe this channel. This channel is about helping MBBS students in studies. We already have 200 plus free medical videos. Now let's start it. First important thing about myasthenia gravis is what is the meaning of the term myasthenia gravis. The name myasthenia. The name myasthenia gravis is actually a Latin derived and Greek in origin. That means grave means serious, gravis means grave, grave means serious, and myasthenia actually came from the word muscle weakness. Myasthenia means weakness, myas means muscle, so muscle weakness, and gravis means grave like, serious muscle weakness that has developed in a person, a very serious type of muscle weakness that is known as myasthenia gravis. So you can understand what is the meaning of the term myasthenia gravis. Now basically what kind of disease it is? It is a autoimmune disease. What is the meaning of the term autoimmune? That means our own body are fighting against our own body. So that is autoimmunity. Production of autoimmune cells. So those cells which will fight against our own immunity, against our own immune system. So our own immune system will be destroyed and our own immunity is not there. So there will be many chances of other bacteria or virus or fungus to attack our body. So this kind of disease are known as autoimmune disease, and myasthenia gravis is a kind of autoimmune disease affecting the neuromuscular junction. So which part of our body is affected by myasthenia gravis? Neuromuscular junction. Always remember neuromuscular junction. That means the name itself says neuromuscular. Neuro means neuron and muscular muscle. So it is the junction in which the nerve and the muscle meets together. At that very place myasthenia gravis attack or myasthenia gravis happens. So always remember, not a brain disorder. Myasthenia gravis is not a brain disorder because many people thinks wrongly. It is a wrong concept of the human being that they think that myasthenia gravis is a brain disorder. Because of the brain disorder he is having the weakness in his muscle, but that is not true. That is false. So myasthenia gravis is not a brain disorder. Keep this thing in your mind, because this comes in various examination like in NEET, PGMs, PG and other examinations. So myasthenia gravis is not a brain disorder. Brain functions normally. Brain functions normally in myasthenia gravis, characterized by fluctuating muscle weakness and fatigability. So what is the characteristics of myasthenia gravis? Overall characteristics of myasthenia gravis is fluctuating muscle weakness. You are having a muscle weakness, but that muscle weakness is fluctuating. That means now you are having a muscle weakness, but after some time you may not find that weak. You may not find that muscle weak or that portion of your body weak. After some time you may find that that portion is not weak. Now it is quite normal and it is just like ordinary function. So now you can understand what is the meaning of the term myasthenia gravis. One more point is disease may be generalized or ocular specific. Now, this myasthenia gravis can be a generalized disorder, that means generalized muscle weakness. That means this disease has occurred throughout the body muscle, basically the skeletal muscles or other muscles has been affected throughout the body. So the disease can be generalized or the disease can be ocular specific. Ocular means eye related. So the muscle can be weakness in only specifically in the eye. So eye muscles are weak. That means only the eye muscles are having the problem. The other muscles are quite normal. Maybe the eye muscles are weak. That means the person will be having drooping eyelids. It shows drooping eyelids. So I will discuss details in this video only. What is the signs and symptoms of myasthenia gravis patients? So be in this video and do not skip the video and watch the video completely. Now, what is the definition of myasthenia gravis? Myasthenia gravis is defined as an autoimmune disorder affecting the myoneural junctions or neuromuscular junction and characterized by varying degree of weakness of the voluntary muscle. Always remember, which muscle? Voluntary muscle, not the muscles which are involuntary. What are the involuntary muscle? Like the muscles of heart, that is an involuntary muscle. The muscle which is there inside our body, which is just pumping in our own, like the heart muscles, that is involuntary, not voluntary. Voluntary muscles are basically the skeletal muscles, because we are doing the work voluntarily. So the voluntary muscle will be weakened by myasthenia gravis. And because why this has happened? Because of the autoimmune conditions. And which part of the body is affected? Which portion? That is myoneural junction or the neuromuscular junctions. That is the portion where the muscle and the nerves meet together. What actually happens? I will tell in details about the pathophysiology, how the disease occurring. Can you imagine? You have to imagine in your mind. It is a kind of autoimmune disorder in which weakness is caused by circulating antibodies. So basically autoantibodies will be formed. So as I told you, this is a kind of autoimmune disorder. That means there will be formation of autoantibodies. So autoantibodies are the antibodies that will act against our own antibodies, that will destroy our body's immune system. So circulating, caused by, why this autoimmune disorder has been caused? This disorder has caused a weakness. Now why this weakness has caused? This weakness is actually caused by circulating autoantibodies that block, or antibodies that block the acetylcholine receptor at the postsynaptic neuromuscular junction. So you have the neuromuscular junction. Can you imagine? So go inside the neuromuscular junction. Inside the neuromuscular junction, you can imagine there is a nerve ending, the neural bulb, and there is another muscle. So the neural bulb is connected with the muscle, and at the postsynaptic cleft you have the acetylcholine receptor. Postsynaptic neuromuscular junction, you have a receptor. What is the name of the receptor? The name of the receptor is acetylcholine receptor. Now this receptor will be blocked. Which receptor is blocked? Acetylcholine receptor is blocked. Now how this receptor has been blocked? This receptor, neuromuscular junction acetylcholine receptor, is blocked by the antibodies. So there are circulating antibodies in the person's body which has blocked the acetylcholine receptor, which is situated at the neuromuscular junction, at the postsynaptic neuromuscular junction, inhibiting the excitatory effect of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine at the neuromuscular junction. So this will inhibit the this will inhibit the acetylcholine excitatory effect. So acetylcholine is a kind of neurotransmitter. Acetylcholine is a kind of neurotransmitter that is there inside our body. At which part? At the neuromuscular junction. It is a kind of excitatory neurotransmitter. Now the neuromuscular junction is having a problem. What is the problem? The problem is the acetylcholine receptor is blocked. Who has blocked it? It is blocked by circulating antibodies inside the person. So you can understand how this myasthenia gravis is caused. Now let us discuss about the causes of myasthenia gravis. The causes of myasthenia gravis is idiopathic. We don't know. It is unknown. We don't know the cause of myasthenia gravis. Basically, it is under the study. So idiopathic cause. Autoantibodies. Another cause can be autoantibodies that destroy the acetylcholine receptor. I told you that the person has developed autoimmunity, a certain kind of system in which our body destroys itself. Our body destroys its own autoantibodies, destroys its own antibodies. And the name of the antibodies is autoantibody. So autoantibodies are destroying our own body's immune system or immune defense system. So autoantibodies has now destroyed the acetylcholine receptor. Autoantibodies has destroyed the acetylcholine receptor. Another cause can be thymus tumor in 15% of the people. So the 15% of the people are having thymus tumor. So that can also be a cause. So three different kind of cause I told you. One cause is idiopathic. We don't know, it is under study and scientists are researching on it. Idiopathic cause. The second is autoimmunity, autoantibody. So the second is autoantibodies that is formed due to autoimmunity. So autoantibody that destroys the acetylcholine receptor. Autoantibodies that destroys the acetylcholine receptor. And the third one is thymus tumor. The third one is the thymus tumor that is formed in 15% of the patients. So these are the causes. Okay, now let us discuss about the incidence of MG or myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia gravis affects 14 per 1 lakh people in United States. So in case of United States, it is more or less, it is less because per 1 lakh people only 14 are affected. But I think in India it is more. Can affect any age group. That is very true. This myasthenia gravis or MG can actually affect any age group. So there is no particular age group which you can say that they are having the myasthenia gravis. It is common in the old age. Not like that. So actually any age group can have this myasthenia gravis. Woman peak incidence is 20s to 30s. In 20 or in 30 to 30, so between 20s to 30s, women have the peak incidence of myasthenia gravis. So myasthenia gravis are found in women. Peak incidence between 20s to 30s. Men peak incidence at 50 to 60s. So in case of men, older men, generally older people like 50 to 60s have the peak incidence, but in case of the woman, 20s to 30s have the peak incidence. Now let us learn about the pathophysiology of myasthenia gravis. So how does actually the disease progress? How does the disease occur? Basically, the pathophysiology due to autoimmune response. So the starting is autoimmune. Autoimmunity developed inside the body. No one knows the cause. Maybe idiopathic or autoimmunity develops due to infection. No one knows that. So due to autoimmune response, development of autoantibodies occur. So the second one is development of autoantibody. Due to autoimmunity, development of autoantibodies. Now these autoantibodies will attack the acetylcholine receptor in the motor end plate. So at the motor end plate, acetylcholine receptor will be attacked. Acetylcholine receptor will be attacked by the autoantibodies that is formed inside the body. So autoantibodies will attack the acetylcholine receptor at the motor end plate. Next is act against the nicotine acetylcholine receptor. Always remember this point. Acts against the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. Now you know that acetylcholine receptor can be of two types. One is muscarinic receptor, another is nicotinic receptor. So basically the nicotinic receptor will be attacked. Which receptor? Basically the acetylcholine nicotinic receptor will be attacked. So this point is very important. Acts against the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. Nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. The next is impair the ability of acetylcholine to bind to receptor. Impair the ability. Now as the autoantibodies has bind with the acetylcholine receptor, so the acetylcholine cannot bind because acetylcholine cannot bind. Why acetylcholine cannot bind with acetylcholine receptor? Acetylcholine, because of the why the acetylcholine receptor is there? Because they want to bind with the acetylcholine. So acetylcholine receptor is there for binding with the acetylcholine, but acetylcholine cannot bind with acetylcholine receptor because why? Because of the autoantibody has now binded with the acetylcholine receptor. So autoantibody has now binded with the acetylcholine receptor, and so this impairs the ability of acetylcholine to bind with the receptor. And what happens? Results in voluntary muscle weakness that actually escalates with continued activity. So always remember, so because of these procedure, at last weakness, muscle weakness developed in the myasthenia gravis patients. Now this is a pictorial representation how actually this myasthenia gravis is caused. You can see the left side is the huge one, that is the muscle, and the nerve is ending at the muscle. So you just zoom in at that circle, which is actually the neuromuscular junction, so where the nerve and the muscle junction together. Now if we zoom in on the right side, we can see that is actually the nerve ending, the nerve bulb, that is the postsynaptic bulb and postsynaptic membrane, everything is there, and inside that you can see is very small little that is actually the acetylcholine that is there, and that is released from the nerve ending. So from that nerve ending the acetylcholine are released. Now this acetylcholine will be binding on the acetylcholine receptor that is there on the muscle fiber. You can see the surface of the muscle fiber, down there they have the acetylcholine receptor, and so the acetylcholine which came out from the nerve endings, now they are going to bind. But what happens? In between the antibodies came. Now the antibodies has blocked the sites of the acetylcholine receptor, so the acetylcholine cannot bind with the acetylcholine receptor. And what happens eventually? That eventually because of this muscle weakness occur, and that is known as myasthenia gravis. So what are the clinical manifestations of myasthenia gravis? Clinically, we can get many symptoms. Affects any of the muscle that controls voluntarily. I told you, always remember the voluntary muscles are affected. Involuntary muscles are not affected. Like if someone says that I have myasthenia gravis in my heart, that is wrong. Heart muscles, that is wrong, because the heart muscles is involuntary. In the same way, always remember the voluntary muscle, that is the skeletal muscles, will be affected because that is voluntary muscle. Certain muscle groups are more commonly affected than the others, but there are certain muscle groups which can be affected more than that of the others. For example, the face, the eye muscles, like the throat muscle, neck muscles, the limb muscles. So all these muscles are affected more. Other muscles can also be affected, but The most commonly muscles affected are the face muscles. So those muscles which are there in your face, like the eyes, the face, the throat muscles, the neck muscles, or the limb muscles are affected. So always remember, there is some hallmark of myasthenia gravis. And what is the hallmark of myasthenia gravis? Is fatigability. Fatigability, the person will have fatigue. Always the person feel like low energy, there is less energy, decrease in his energy levels, always fatigue, always tired. The person thinks that the person feels that he cannot do any work, he is having so much tired and low energy. That is known as fatigability. That is the hallmark of myasthenia gravis. Other things which can be included in clinical manifestation of MG are dysarthria. Dys means actually painful. Arthria means joints. So the joints will be painful in these kinds of patients of myasthenia gravis. Dysarthria. Dysphagia. The person cannot even swallow or eat properly. Swallow food properly because the person will be having pain in swallowing. That is dysphagia. Even in eating, even in swallowing, the person may find difficulty because his facial muscles has been weakened because of the weakness in that has developed in the facial muscles. So dysphagia, dysarthria. Ptosis. Ptosis means, what is the meaning of the term ptosis? Ptosis means actually drooping of the eyelids. So the eyelids will be drooping. Why? The eye muscles has been weakened. The eye muscles are so weak that the muscles are drooping down. So ptosis, that is known as drooping of the eyelids. Basically the eyelids are affected and the other ocular muscles are also affected. So the person cannot even see things properly because of the drooping eyelids. That is known as the ptosis. Next is diplopia. Because of the weakening of the muscles of the eye, eye cannot function properly, so the person may also have diplopia, means double vision. Diplopia means double vision. Diplopia means, diplo means two, plia. Diplopia means actually two vision, so double vision. The next is nasal sounding speech. So the person's speech seems like he is talking in a nasal voice. He is talking in a nasal voice. That is known as nasal sounding speech. The person will be having nasal sounding speech. Why this is happening? Can anyone guess? Actually, the nasal sounding speech is because the person is having a weakness in his tone, in his vocal cord, in his neck muscles, in his larynx. So all these muscles which helps in actually production of the speech, the normal speech, that is lacking. So a kind of nasal tone will be there in the person. So nasal sounding speech. Next is worsening muscle weakness, and the muscle weakness will be there in the patient, and that is not that also is worsening. So with time this muscle weakness will go worse. That is known as worsening muscle weakness. So all these are clinical manifestation of MG. Diagnostic evaluation. So what are the things that is actually used in diagnostic procedure for MG? How we can diagnose that the person is having myasthenia gravis? The first is history. You must take the patient history. You must ask the patients that what happened to you, and the patient will say basically weakness in his face, maybe one side or two sides, or drooping eyelids. You can look at him, and also the person may say about this muscle weakness are worsening with time. So you can understand from that. History is very important. The second is the physical examination of the patient. So you must examine the patient that how much physically he is weak, how much muscle weakness he has developed. So you must do the physical examination. This third one is edrophonium test. That is a kind of test that I will tell you in this video, so don't worry about it. Edrophonium test. pharmacological test, and that is also known as tensilon test, edrophonium test, or tensilon test. Always remember this test name, edrophonium test or tensilon test, because this has come in several times in NEET PG, DNB, EAMS PG, and all these examination. Edrophonium test, that is also known as the tensilon test, that is also used basically for diagnosis of MG. I will discuss in details about this test in this video only, so don't worry, just watch this video continuously. Next is the blood analysis. You must take a blood sample and analyze that for diagnosing the person is having autoantibodies in his blood. So you can understand that the person is having autoantibodies which is against the acetylcholine receptor. So you can understand that the person is having myasthenia gravis from that blood analysis. Next is repetitive nerve stimulation. So you can give nerve stimulation repetitively to the person, and by doing that you can understand if the neuromuscular junction of the person is functioning properly or not. So nerve stimulation is also important for diagnosis of MG. Next is single fiber electromyography. So EMG, what is EMG? EMG means electromyography. So EMG, so actually basically a fiber of the muscle is tested for electromyography, how much responsive this muscle is when electromyogram is tested basically. So you can understand that by this method diagnosis of MG is done, because you can understand, you can evaluate the weakness of the muscle by the single fiber electromyography test. Next is imaging scans. So there are other imaging scans also for diagnosing the MG. Now let us learn about physical examination. How physical examination is done by the doctor. Basically the muscle strength is checked, and also the muscle tone, how much tension is there in the muscle, how much strength is there in the muscle. So the muscle strength, muscle tone is checked. Next is coordination, how much coordination is there, that should be also checked. Next is the sense of touch, if the person is having the sense of touch or not, the patient is having the sense of touch or not, you have to check that. Next is the impairment of the eye movement. You have to look into his eye and look if there is coordination in his eye movement, or if there is weakness in his eye movement. So basically the ocular examination is also done. So this is generally done by the ophthalmologist for checking if there is any weakness in the eye muscles and not, or other any GP can also examine that. Now let us learn about the anticholinesterase test. So what is anticholinesterase test? Anticholinesterase test is actually this test which is known as edrophonium chloride. Edrophonium, I told you that I will tell you about this test. Edrophonium chloride, also known as tensilon test. Edrophonium chloride. So the name of the chemical or name of the drug, you can say, is known as edrophonium chloride, and also known as tensilon, is actually injected IV. So intravenously you will inject this drug, that is known as edrophonium. So this is known as edrophonium test for MG, myasthenia gravis. So questions has come from this test, very important for NEET PG, that which test is used for the myasthenia gravis detection, that is edrophonium test. Edrophonium chloride or tensilon is injected intravenously 2 mg at a time, to a total of 10 mg. So you will just inject 2 mg, then after some time 2 mg, like that you have to continue it up till 10 mg. You can give 10 mg total. So 30 seconds after the injection, facial muscle weakness, ptosis should resolve for about 5 minutes. So for 5 minutes you can see that the facial muscle weakness is now not there. Now ptosis, that is the drooping of the eyelids of the patient, is now not there. At least for 5 minutes you can see it has resolved. So basically edrophonium chloride test, you can understand, or tensilon test actually is needed for myasthenia gravis, understanding myasthenia gravis, if the patient is having myasthenia gravis or not. This immediate improvement improvement in the muscle strength after administration of this hydrofonium chloride represent positive test and usually confirm the diagnosis. So this test will confirm that the person is having the person is having myasthenia gravis. So you can understand that the person is now you can understand by hydrofonium chloride or tensilin test that the person is having myasthenia gravis. So you can confirm by this, you can confirm the diagnosis by this test. Always remember this test because this test is very important for NEET PG. Now let us learn about the blood sample analysis. What happens in blood analysis? Basically, in the blood analysis of MG patients, what we look for? We look actually for the elevated level of acetylcholine receptor antibodies. I told you that the autoantibodies will be checked in the person's blood. Basically, the acetylcholine receptor antibodies are checked in the blood. So you will find that the patient of MG are having elevated level of acetylcholine receptor antibodies. And another kind you can find, that is anti-MuSK. MuSK. So what is MuSK? MuSK. That is actually mu means muscle and S means specific, K means kinase. So muscle specific kinase antibody. So another thing you will find out, another antibody, that is muscle specific kinase antibody. Muscle specific kinase antibody. Muscle specific kinase antibody. So anti muscle specific kinase antibody, anti-MuSK antibody. Always remember. So these are the blood sample analysis for MG patients. Next is, what is repetitive nerve stimulation? Now let us learn about the repetitive nerve stimulation. What happens? Repetitive nerve stimulation, which repeatedly stimulates a person's nerves. How do we stimulate the person's nerve repeatedly? With a small pulse of electricity. There is actually a very small pulse. There is a small electricity that is given in a small pulse to tire specific muscle. So we need to see the response in a specific muscle. So that is why repetitively we will stimulate a person's nerve. As I told you that it is a disorder of the neuromuscular junction. So for checking the neuromuscular junction which is functional or not, we will stimulate the nerve repetitively with the help of a small pulse of electricity, and we will find that if the muscle is working or not. So that is known as repetitive nerve stimulation. Hope you get it. The next is the muscle fiber do not respond as well to repetitive electrical stimulus. So as the person is having myasthenia gravis, so the person's muscle fiber will not be so much responsive. The person's muscle fiber will not respond so much because the person is already having problem in the neuromuscular junction. So the nerve and the muscles are now not coordinated, they are not acting together. So as we are stimulating the nerve so much repetitively with a small pulse of electricity, but the muscle is not responding, but the muscle is not coordinating with the nerve, and you can now diagnose that the person is having myasthenia gravis. Now let us learn about the procedure single fiber electromyography. So what is single fiber? The name itself says single fiber electromyography, EMG. EMG is very important. It is considered the most sensitive test for myasthenia gravis. Always remember, single fiber electromyography. Electromyography, that means something electricity is given, and myography means electricity is given. Myography means actually the muscles are involved, and we get a graph. We get something graph related. So that is known as single fiber, and single fiber is tested. So single fiber electromyography, basically it is an EMG which is considered the most specific test for the myasthenia gravis. Detects impaired nerve to muscle transmission. Now by that machine, by that graph, you can actually predict that there is an impairment between the conduction of the nerve to the muscle. So the transmission, the conduction of the impulse, the conduction of the electricity, the conduction of the action potential, or whatever I call it. So conduction is not proper from nerve to the muscle. The transmission is not proper. So there is a problem. From that you can understand. So always remember, single fiber electromyography is considered as the most sensitive test for myasthenia gravis. Now let us learn about the imaging scan. What are the imaging we can do? We can do CT or MRI. So if we do CT or MRI, we must understand that in which portion we are doing. We are generally doing the CT or the MRI of the thymus gland, because thymus is also responsible. I told you that thymus tumors are also responsible for 15% of the patients. So always remember, CT or the MRI, if shows thymus tumor, thymus enlargement. So for that reason, we do this imaging study also for understanding myasthenia gravis. Now let us learn about the non-pharmacological management. So without the help of the medicine, without the help of pharmacology, can we manage the situation of the myasthenia gravis? Yes, we can. So there are non-pharmacological management for myasthenia gravis. And the first one is eat small meals, snacks 5 times to 6 times a day. So you must eat very small meals and you must take snacks 5 or 6 times a day. So as you are feeling weak throughout the day, so you must take snacks or you must take meals, and that meal should be small, because in large amount if you are taking meals for 5 or 6 times, you may have other problems. So you must take small meals, and that small meals can be taken for 5 to 6 times a day. First one. The second is avoid using low fat or diet products when possible. So you must avoid using low fat product or diet products. Always remember. The third is avoid eating lemons. So you must not eat lemon or tonic water. That is also bad. Next, number 4 is eat warm rather than hot food. So you must not eat hot food, you must eat warm food. Next is runny or puree diet when swallowing is difficult. Next is alternate sips of liquid to avoid food from sticking. So sometimes because there is muscle weakness in his face, so the patient cannot swallow the food properly. So you must take a little sip of water to avoid the food that being stuck in your mouth. So alternate sips of liquid must be taken. Food, alternatively you can take, like food you take, then water, then food, then water, like that. Alternatively you can do. Next is avoid eating chewy or dry crumbly foods. So avoid that. Okay, now let us learn about the pharmacological management. So what is the pharmacological management for the myasthenia gravis? So what is the medical management? The first one is immunosuppressive therapy. Immunosuppressive therapy. Why should we give immunosuppressive therapy? So we need to suppress the immune system. The person is having autoantibodies in his body. So the person has developed the autoimmunity in his body. So autoantibodies has been formed that are destroying the acetylcholine receptor. So we must suppress the immune system of the body. That is known as immunosuppressive therapy, and for that we give prednisone and azathioprine. Prednisone and azathioprine. Always remember, for immunosuppressive theory we get PA. P for, always remember, prednisone, and A for azathioprine. So P for prednisone, A for azathioprine. P for prednisone, A for azathioprine. Prednisone, azathioprine. Prednisone and azathioprine. So prednisone and azathioprine are actually given as immunosuppressive therapy. Other thing is acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. So why acetylcholinesterase are inhibited? Acetylcholinesterase is actually an enzyme, and this enzyme must be inhibited because acetylcholinesterase. What is the function of that enzyme acetylcholinesterase? Let me tell you. Acetylcholinesterase is an enzyme that breaks acetylcholine. So as acetylcholine cannot actually come to the receptor, so these acetylcholine will be and if it is broken down, then eventually more muscle weakness will be developed. So acetylcholinesterase are inhibited. So by that you have to understand acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. So acetylcholinesterase inhibitor are also the drugs that are used to inhibit acetylcholinesterase enzymes. So acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, first line of therapy is this one. Always remember, acetylcholinesterase inhibitor are first line therapy. Neostigmine bromide. Neostigmine bromide is also used. Always remember, neostigmine bromide, acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, neostigmine bromide, and hydrophonium chloride. So these two, one bromide, one chloride, is used for as acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. So what are the two? One bromide, one chloride. So what is the chloride? We already studied hydrophonium chloride, which is also known as tensilon, and which bromide? That is neostigmine bromide. Neostigmine bromide. So neostigmine bromide, which is also known as pyridostigmine. Pyridostigmine. So neostigmine is also known as pyridostigmine. Neostigmine bromide is also known as pyridostigmine. So these are acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, neostigmine bromide and hydrophonium chloride. Neostigmine bromide, which is also known as pyridostigmine, and hydrophonium chloride, which is also known as tensilon. I told you these things. Next is plasmapheresis. Plasmapheresis is also used as a pharmacological management. Next is immunoglobulin therapy. Immunoglobulin therapy are also used. So now let us learn about the surgical management. Is there any surgery for this? Yes, there is a surgical management also, but that is generally related with the thymus gland. So thymectomy. So the name itself, thymectomy, surgical removal of the thymus gland. So the thymus gland are removed. Thymus gland, why they are removed? And thymus gland removal, surgical removal of the thymus gland, that is known as thymectomy. So thymectomy. So tomy, actually ectomy or tomy means actually removal. Ectomy means removal, and thymectomy means thymus removal. So it is surgical removal of the thymus gland, can produce antigen specific immunosuppression and result in clinical improvement. Now this thymectomy actually can produce antigen specific immunosuppression. Now immunosuppression can be produced by that is by thymectomy. So as you have done thymectomy, the thymus is removed from the body. Now there is no thymus. So antigen specific immune suppression can be now developed and clinical improvement in the patient can be seen. So always remember, surgical management is also there, that is thymectomy. Now let us learn about the complication of myasthenia gravis. Is there any complication for myasthenia gravis? Yes, there is complication. What is the name of the complication? Complication is myasthenic crisis. Myasthenic crisis. Myasthenic crisis is complication. So myasthenic crisis, what happens in myasthenic crisis? It is a complication. It is an exacerbation of the disease process characterized by severe generalized muscle weakness and respiratory and bulbar weakness that result in respiratory failure. So basically, myasthenic crisis is an exacerbation of the myasthenia gravis. So exacerbation of the disease has occurred. So now the disease has been more seriously affecting the body. So now the patient is suffering more weakness, generalized weakness, whole body is affected, and also the respiratory system are also not spared. So the respiratory system are also affected, that is affecting the respiratory and the bulbar weakness. Always remember, this has results in respiratory and bulbar weakness, and this results in respiratory failure of the patient. So now the patient develops respiratory failure. So that is known as myasthenic crisis. So a crisis, a failure, a respiratory failure has developed. Not only muscle weakness, but also respiratory failure has developed because of myasthenia. So it is known as myasthenic crisis. Myasthenic crisis developed from myasthenia gravis. Crisis means respiratory failure. Basically, generalized muscle weakness and respiratory failure has occurred. Exacerbation of the myasthenia gravis has occurred. So a crisis, we can say crisis has developed in the patient. So that is myasthenic crisis. It is a kind of complication of myasthenia gravis. Okay, now let us learn about myasthenic crisis versus cholinergic crisis. Is there any difference between myasthenic crisis and cholinergic crisis? Yes, there is some difference between myasthenic crisis and cholinergic crisis. So let us learn about myasthenic crisis first, because we have already studied myasthenic crisis. So what happens in myasthenic crisis? Basically, this happens under medication. So less medication, under medication. Myasthenic crisis. But cholinergic crisis is over medication. Cholinergic crisis means over medication. Myasthenia crisis increase the heart rate. In myasthenia crisis, when the crisis has developed, when the person is having complication of myasthenia gravis, he has increased heart rate, increased BP, blood pressure is increased, respiratory rate is increased, everything is increased. Basically, for the BP, I will tell, the blood pressure is very increased in myasthenic crisis. But in cholinergic crisis, the blood pressure is low. So the patient is having low BP. So that is difference. Next, in myasthenic crisis, the bowel and bladder incontinence is seen. So incontinence of the bowel and the bladder incontinence is seen. In cholinergic crisis, ABD, abdominal cramps. So abdominal cramps can be found in cholinergic crisis. And always remember, decreased urine output in myasthenic crisis. So when the person is having myasthenic crisis, the urine output of this patient is very low. Urine output is decreased. But in cholinergic crisis, the person is having abdominal cramp, diarrhea, and all this. Next is in myasthenic crisis, the person is having absent cough reflex, absent swallow reflex. So cough, the person cannot cough, the person cannot swallow in myasthenic crisis. But in case of the cholinergic crisis, we can actually find that the person is having blurred vision and pallor in his body. So there is some difference, like absent cough and swallow reflex in myasthenic crisis, and in cholinergic crisis the person is having blurred vision, the person is having pallor. And always remember these things, like they need mechanical ventilation in myasthenic crisis. So myasthenic crisis means the person will require mechanical ventilation because the person is developing the respiratory failure. So mechanical ventilator is needed. But in case of cholinergic crisis, I don't think they need all this. So cholinergic crisis will have pallor, blurred vision, pallor, facial muscle twitching, constriction of the pupil. Always remember all these things. Tensilon has no effect on cholinergic crisis. Tensilon, I told you, hydrophonium test, that has no effect on cholinergic crisis. So when Tensilon test is done, that has no effect on cholinergic crisis. So the person is given hydrophonium chloride and no improvement has occurred in that person. So you can understand the person is not having myasthenia gravis but having cholinergic crisis. So that is the difference. And also in myasthenic crisis, temporary improvement of the symptom given with Tensilon. I told you, hydrophonium test or the Tensilon test, when you give a myasthenia gravis patient Tensilon or hydrophonium chloride, then you can find out that the symptoms are relieving, improving, temporarily improvement of the symptom with the administration of administration of Tensilon. But in case of cholinergic crisis, if the person is having cholinergic crisis, if you have given the injection of if you have given the hydrophonium or the Tensilon, you can intravenously, you can find out that there is no sign of improvement in that patient. So you can understand that this patient is cholinergic crisis patient. So again, I am telling all these symptoms improve with administration of anticholinergic like atropine. But in case of cholinergic crisis patient, if you give atropine to the cholinergic crisis patient, you can find out there is improvement in his body. So again, I am summarizing all these things. Listen very carefully. What is the difference between myasthenic crisis and cholinergic crisis. There is difference. So the difference you must understand. You may also take screenshot of the slide so that you can read it very easily. Myasthenic crisis use medication, under medication, and cholinergic crisis means over medication. So starting in myasthenic crisis, the heart rate, BP and respiratory rate, everything is high, very high in myasthenic crisis, very high. Blood pressure is very high. Cholinergic crisis, the blood pressure is low, pallor, blur vision, the vision is not clear. But the person of cholinergic crisis is having abdominal cramp, diarrhea. But in case of myasthenic crisis, the person is in the mechanical ventilation. The person, there is no cough reflex, swallow reflex. And you may understand that this is a myasthenia gravis, myasthenic crisis patient, and this is cholinergic crisis patient with the help of edrophonium test or tensilon test. Because when you give the tensilon or edrophonium to the person with myasthenic crisis, there will be improvement of his symptoms. But in case of cholinergic crisis, if you give edrophonium test, no result, or there is no result or no effect is there for tensilon or edrophonium test. But the patient of cholinergic crisis will improve its symptom with the use of atropine. When you are using atropine to that patient of cholinergic crisis, then you can find improvement in his symptoms. Hope you can understand it. Now, what is the prognosis of myasthenia gravis? The prognosis is chronic disease with periods of exacerbation and sometimes remission. So basically this is a chronic disease, and with periods of exacerbation, sometimes the muscle weakness increases, sometimes remission of the muscle weakness occurs, sometimes again it occurs. So this is kind of a chronic disease which with periods it can vary. Disease course is highly variable. I told you disease course is very variable. Symptoms responds well to treatment. Generally, with treatment, the symptoms can be relieved. In most cases, the patient can live a normal life or nearly normal life. So, most of the patient, if treatment is done by the medicine department, everything will be normal. Ocular myasthenia has best prognosis. So, if only the ocular part is involved, only the eye muscle has been weakened by myasthenia gravis, that has the best prognosis. Always remember that. Thank you so much guys for watching this video, and if you like this video, make a thumbs up and please subscribe our channel. We have already crossed 10,000 views on our channels, and if you please like our channel, do share with your friends and do not forget to subscribe our channel. Bye bye.